Hello, listeners. This is Kat, and welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of Innocent Until Proven Guilty. This will be Part 7, Chapter 7, entitled Calm Before the Storm. Friday morning arrived, and Shouta hadn't slept hardly at all the night before. Despite doing his best to reassure Midoriya and himself, he couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that this interrogation wouldn't be easy. Hizashi had even sacrificed his own sleep last night, doing his best to soothe Shouta and offer support. Spending the early hours of the morning curled in his husband's arms was comforting, but Shouta still couldn't stop thinking about it. "I still have a bad feeling about this, Zashi," Shouta mumbled into Hizashi's chest. One of Hizashi's hands moved to run through Shota's hair. "I know you're worried, Sho. I am too, but we both know the little listener is strong. You'll be there for him. And tonight you can come home and we can talk through it if you need to," Hizashi said quietly. After finally pulling himself from his husband's arms, Shouta got dressed and made his way downstairs to the common area of the dorms for some coffee. Their coffee maker in the apartment had been fixed, but this was a way for him to keep an eye on the students given the events of the past week. Not to mention, he planned to escort Midoriya to Nedzu's office anyway. It was still early when he reached the kitchen, hardly any students downstairs yet. Yaoyorozu was making tea while chatting with Ida about something, likely school-related, knowing them. On one of the couches were Uraraka and Asawi, both appearing to be looking over their assignments. Shouta had expressed his disappointment with her during one of her detentions recently. Shouta was standing behind the podium in the classroom, while Uraraka sat at her desk, working on the writing assignment she'd been given. Her eyes were glaring at her paper, pencil clenched in her grip. It had been like this all week. He could practically feel the frustration rolling off her in waves. "Did you have a question, Uraraka? Something you're struggling with on this assignment? I felt my instructions were fairly straightforward. Did you need further clarification?" Shouta questioned sharply, snapping the girl out of her trance. Her eyes raised to meet his own. "Sensei, you have to understand," she started. "Let me just stop you there," Shouta cut off, leaving no room for argument, knowing she was about to start on the same spiel she's been trying all week. "You seem to have mistaken my questions as room for you to argue your point once more. Allow me to be clearer," he said menacingly, refusing to break eye contact. "Not only did you violate a student's privacy, you shared his things with the rest of your classmates. Instead of speaking to a teacher first about any concerns you had, you chose to act on your own, and instilled a fear in others that has caused someone I had perceived to be your friend to be isolated, wrongfully accused, and outcasted." Shouta took a moment to let the words really sink in for her, hoping that unlike all his previous attempts, this time would click. "You chose to betray the trust of a friend, a classmate, someone who has consistently shown his willingness to put his life on the line for yours, even going back as far as the entrance exam, when he didn't even know your name." This time she flinched at his words, but her eyes still remained determined. Shouta wasn't one to praise recklessness or self-sacrificing behavior at all. However, in this case, the problem child's actions also show his heroism. Instead of having faith in him, you've set forth this chain reaction, and once his name is officially cleared, I hope you finally understand the weight of your actions," he concluded lowly, looking back down to his podium, where he had a few assignments to grade. Uraraka didn't utter a word. She merely went back to her writing assignment. Shouta had hoped to get through to her to some degree, but it looked like his words weren't enough to do so. Shaking himself of his thoughts, he made his way in the kitchen, sparing Ida and Yaoyorozu each a brief nod, and started a pot of coffee. 15 minutes and 2 cups of coffee later, Midoriya arrived, downstairs, sans his uniform. Nedzu had instructed him to wear comfortable clothes, as it was going to be a long day. As the boy approached, Shouta took the chance to study his appearance. He was wearing a dark green hoodie and a pair of black sweatpants. He'd say the kid looked comfortable, if it weren't for the tense posture the boy had. His hair was as unruly as ever, but no real difference there. The kid had bags under his eyes that had only seemed to be worsening with each day this week. But what stood out the most to Shouta were the boy's actual eyes themselves. Rather than their usual vibrant green, they appeared dull, almost lifeless. This is wrong. Frankly, Midoriya looked more exhausted than ever before. It's likely the kid didn't sleep at all last night either. The boy's eyes were locked on his as he made his way into the kitchen quietly, hearing nothing but silence from the other 4 students, currently occupying the area. They all had silenced themselves with Midoriya's arrival. With a slight nod at Shouta, the boy made his way to a cabinet, grabbing a large thermos and heading to the coffee pot. Since when does Problem Child drink coffee? He filled the thermos, secured the lid, and took a long sip, closing his eyes. Shouta stared bewildered, doing his best not to let it show. He simply wasn't expecting Midoriya to be similar to himself in coffee preferences. "Are you ready to head out, Problem Child?" he questioned softly, trying not to startle him. The boy's eyes snapped open and met his own. Thankfully, they had a bit more life to them, most likely from the coffee. He nodded and wordlessly turned, heading to the door to exit Heights Alliance. Shouta followed after him, trying his best to stamp down his anger at the sighs of relief he heard from the other students. This is going to be a long day. The walk to Nedzu's office was quiet. Midoriya seemed more relaxed than back at the dorms. The tension in his shoulders was still visible, but not nearly as bad as before. Shouta stayed to his side, content to remain silent and not force a conversation. The kid would be talking enough today as it is. It was before classes, so the campus was rather empty. Very few students would be out of the dorms at this time, which Shouta was thankful for. Nedzu likely planned this on purpose if he had to guess. That way Midoriya could have a little peace heading into this. They were nearly to the building when a voice had called out. "Young Midoriya, hold on a moment," Yagi yelled from a ways away. Shouta bit back an annoyed sigh as he saw the man running up to them. He was in his skinny form, and as he reached them, he put his hands on his knees while he caught his breath. "All Might, is everything all right?" Midoriya asked, concerned. Shouta watched the interaction with mild interest. For starters, Midoriya seemed to be trying to make himself appear more lively, but also showed genuine concern for Yagi. Yes, everything is quite all right, young Midoriya. I just merely wanted to wish you luck today, as I unfortunately am unable to sit in with you," Yagi told him, after finally catching his breath. Seeming to finally notice him, he said, "Ah, good morning, Aizawa." Shouta merely gave a short nod in reply. "Oh, thank you, All Might, but I'm sure it'll be fine," Midoriya assured the man with a smile. If Shouta didn't know the kid, even he might be fooled by this act. The kid was nervous as hell for this, that much was clear. "I'm glad to hear that, my boy. I believe in you," Yagi said warmly, smiling at the boy. Midoriya's eyes seemed to soften a bit at the words. Clearing his throat, Shouta spoke up. "This is touching, really, but we're going to be late if we don't get a move on. Let's go, kid." Aizawa placed a hand on the kid's shoulder, surprised the boy didn't flinch, and started to guide him back on track towards Nedzu's office. "Right, of course. You wouldn't want to be late." "Thank you, Aizawa," Yagi said sincerely, before waving goodbye to them both. and heading back in the direction he came from. The remainder of the walk, Shouta thought over the interaction. Midoriya always had a strange relationship with Yagi. Clearly the man favored the problem child, but it had always seemed odd to Shouta, like it was more than just a mentor and student relationship. Yagi's comments after the quirk assessment test on the first day had stuck with him since then, and he found himself noticing how strange the man's interactions with Midoriya were. It was almost as though he knew the boy before UA. Midoriya's sudden stop next to him shook Shouta from his thoughts. Looking around, he realized they were right outside Nedzu's office. Turning to the kid, he saw his eyes were wide, hands gripping his thermos tightly, and his breathing was rapid. Slowly, Shouta approached the boy and lowered himself to make eye contact. "Kid, I need you to take a slow, deep breath for me. Can you do that?" he asked, voice calm and as soothing as he could make it. Not getting a response from the kid, he reached a hand out slowly to place on his shoulder, and he tried again to get through to him. "I know you're nervous. Anyone would be in your shoes right now," he started slowly. Midoriya appeared to be listening to what he was saying, so he kept going. "You're a strong kid. You can handle this. I know that with certainty," he assured. Midoriya's breathing slowed a bit as he took in Shota's words. "I promise I will be here the whole time, kid. You can just focus on me if it becomes too much." "You aren't alone," Shouta promised. Those words seemed to snap Midoriya out of it as he released a shuddering breath, and his body relaxed. "You'll be there the whole time," whispered Midoriya, more to himself than Shouta. "The whole time, kid," Shouta confirmed. Midoriya nodded, eyes filled with determination. "Okay, I'm ready, Sensei." Shouta couldn't help himself. He let a small smile grace his lips as he lifted a hand to ruffle the boy's hair. Midoriya's eyes widened briefly, but he leaned into the touch. Pulling his hand back, Shouta opened up the door and ushered the boy inside. Tsukauchi Naomasa was a lot of things. He was exhausted. He was extremely overworked. But right now, he was genuinely confused. "I'm sorry. I think I misheard you. Could you repeat that?" Naomasa asked, eyes wide and full of disbelief. He knew it wasn't a lie, but he still felt the need to clarify. "Now, Detective, I can assure you heard me right the first time," Nedzu responded, way too chipper for this early in the morning. "The student you are here to question is, in fact, one Midoriya Izuku. While we as the staff do not support these claims, the students are extremely fearful of the possibility and are in need of further confirmation." "True. So you just need me to ask the kid if he's the traitor, confirm it with my quirk, and that's it?" Naomasa asked, clarifying. That wasn't so bad. Nedzu had made it seem much more intensive when he requested him to be here. "Not quite, Detective," Nedzu said, beady eyes locked on Naomasa's. His eyes didn't waver as he paused to take a sip of tea. "The Commission has authorized the use of truth serum for this interrogation, along with the presence of you, myself, and Eraserhead for questioning. Given the nature of this situation, the Commission would appreciate absolute certainty. I'm sure you can understand why." "True." Naomasa balked. "Hold on a second here. Just because the Commission approved for something like this doesn't mean you can use truth serum on a minor without proper consent. You need parental approval for this, Nedzu," he refuted. This was ridiculous. Midoriya was a good kid. Naomasa could tell from the few times he had met him. Not only that, but the boy was the holder of One for All. He wasn't a traitor. There's also no way the Commission caught wind of this without Nedzu pulling the strings somehow. There was a lot more to this, he just knew it. Nedzu's smile turned sharper. What he said next completely threw Naomasa. Why, of course, Detective. I can assure you Mrs. Midoriya was happy to consent to this course of action. All Might himself was the one to ask, Nedzu said. True. Good morning, Midoriya-kun, Aizawa-kun. Please, do come in, Nedzu called, cheerfully. All right, listeners, this concludes Chapter 7 of Innocent Until Proven Guilty. Chapter 8 will be up next, which will finally be the interrogation chapter. I know it's been a build up until this point, but I was really enjoying writing these chapters. I would love to hear the thoughts and reactions you all are having to everything so far. And as always, thank you all so much for listening.